Statistics now confirm what we've been suspecting, that COVID-19 pandemic and attempts to contain it have pushed hundreds of thousands of Malaysians into poverty. The Household Income and Basic Amenities Survey Report 2019 showed that over 200,000 households from the M40 group fell into the B40 group, and the hardcore poor more than doubled to 1% of the population. At the same time, though, the percentage of wealth owned by the shrinking T20 group actually increased by 0.4%. It's now more important than ever that we take steps towards a society built on shared prosperity, so no one gets left behind. The government measures the population according to their household income, as a way of understanding the country's economy. The three groups are the bottom 40, middle 40, and top 20, and every household will fall into one category. This allows ministers to plan for the future, as well as informing how to target any social aid programs that may be needed. In 2019, the B40 households had a median income of 3,000 ringgit, which means that half the B40 has a household income of less than 3,000 ringgit. Especially for those living in major cities, it can be a real struggle to keep up. Many aid schemes are rightly directed to these communities, for example, under the Pemulih stimulus package. Although the median income of the M40 is more than double, at 6,275 ringgit, those at the bottom of this group also struggle with the cost of living. They earn too much to receive aid, but with little or nothing to save, are often one crisis away from falling into poverty. The T20, on the other hand, is not homogeneously wealthy, and in many economies, there is an increasing share of income going to the top 1%. This graph from the Washington Post shows that the top 1% in the United States earns more than the bottom 80%. Trickle-down economies is the proposition that the wealthy generate wealth, which stimulates the economy by way of business investments, which benefit society at large by creating products, employment, and innovation. In reality, the wealthy, by taking the risk and responsibility of investing, aim to make high profits. This does not necessarily equate to wealth creation, especially when the proper checks and balances that safeguard all stakeholder interests are not observed. Think Jeff Bezos and the many Amazon scandals. Anil Karnani, a professor of strategy at Michigan Ross, says that the most sustainable way of reducing poverty is through wealth creation, jobs, and salaries, especially SMEs, which account for a larger segment of mature economies. To create a supportive environment for this, we should focus on 1. Generating employment, 2. Increasing employability, and 3. Making the labour market more efficient through job matching and public infrastructure that allows job mobility. One scheme based on this concept is FELDA. The FELDA scheme was set up in 1957 to develop land and assist with poverty eradication. Settlers were drawn from the rural Malay poor, who were given a piece of land and taught to cultivate it with rubber. The cost of acquiring, developing, and allocating land is repaid via deductions from the settlers' income over a period of 15 years. In 1988, the World Bank declared that FELDA was one of the most successful land development agencies in the world. However, in 2011, under the oversight of Prime Minister Najib's department, FELDA introduced a scheme where FELDA's plantations and downstream activities were placed into FELDA Global Ventures Holdings, which was then listed, raising 10 billion ringgit. But a white paper revealed that following the successful IPO, the proceeds intended to benefit the settlers in the long term went towards non-profitable developments and several acquisitions of assets, some of which were hundreds of multiples above market value. By 2018, the Pakatan Harapan government estimated that FELDA was now 8 billion in debt, with a cash balance of just 100 million ringgit. Another famous poverty reduction scandal was Micro Holdings, an investment vehicle aimed at lifting Malaysian Indians out from poverty. A total of 66,000 shares were sold, raising 106 million ringgit, 70% of which came from low-income earners who pawned the family jewelry and withdrew their life savings. The investment failed to return a profit due to bad management and bad investments, and is liquidated. There was already a huge outcry about Micro Holdings. That outcry continues. Despite these scandals, Malaysia has made huge economic strides since its independence and has significantly reduced poverty across the nation. This was achieved through development initiatives like the New Economic Policy, which worked on modernising the agriculture industry and went on to develop and expand the manufacturing sector. Following this, the National Development Policy, the National Vision Policy, and the 10th Malaysia Plan guided Malaysia in making its manufacturing industry even stronger, whilst developing the service sector. This meant that the job market in areas such as transport, communications, finance, retail, and more grew rapidly, driving the incidence of poverty down to 3.8%. Throughout this time, the government has provided aid for the most in need, often in the form of cash assistance. For example, financial aid for single mothers, for senior citizens, or for the disabled. There are over 7 million recipients of social welfare. In 2007, the eKase National Poverty Data Bank was developed to centralize the profile of the poor and the hardcore poor. Rather than each ministry having their own database, eKase allowed for interagency cooperation, making the delivery of aid more transparent and the distribution more accountable. There are also initiatives like Prima, My Deposit, and the Youth Housing Scheme that help first-time house buyers to get on the property ladder, or funding for entrepreneurs through the Superb scheme. Widening the scope, the World Bank recommends that to realise our potential, we must invest in human capital by improving education, healthcare, and social protections. This makes the clear point that poverty is multidimensional. It should be measured by more than income level and assisted by more than cash handouts. In 2020, the government released the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030. This vision lays the framework for development over the next 10 years. Two of the guiding principles of the document are development for all and addressing wealth and income disparities. It also points out that corruption stifles both of these goals. With the COVID-19 pandemic having wreaked havoc on individual incomes and small businesses, as well as the national economy, we've lost ground, with the poverty rate increasing for the first time in years and unemployment at a 20-year high. As we rebuild in coming years, we will need to maintain our sense of kita jaga kita, whilst also looking to strong leadership in civil society, business, and government to ensure we all succeed together.